Hey gang, it's Jerry Leo here. I want to talk to you a few minutes about some things that have been kind of going through my head here the past few days. Here we are. We're at an exciting time in the sporting world. We're at the Final Four in the NBA playoffs. So the four best teams, arguably with some of the best players playing well together, are now battling it out in the second to last series of the NBA playoff season. We're at the Final Two, the Stanley Cup Championship, where the absolute best teams, a brand new team from Las Vegas, is now up against the Washington Capitals in their first Stanley Cup. Right players that are out there doing the right things. We just passed the NFL draft. 260 young men are now getting an opportunity to have a job as a professional football player. Pretty exciting times going on right now. Through all of those things, one thing that was probably really evident was that there are people, teams of people within those organizations who have gone out there and profiled and worked their butts off to find the right players for their team. One of the key roles with a sales manager, and you've heard me say this sometimes throughout the country in all my programs, is that a sales manager is one of the most important people in the building because they've got to recruit, interview, hire, train, coach, lead, develop, and grow the people that bring in all the money. The sales manager's job is not to grow sales. The sales manager's job is to grow people in both quantity and in quality. Those are two very specific things. I want to talk a little bit about quantity today. This is your recruiting systems and processes that you may have in place. Now, there are some companies who hire them in masses, train them in classes, kick them in the asses, and send them out there in the marketplace, throwing spaghetti against the wall, and we'll see what works, see what wins. I was talking with a company just this past week in a boot camp that I had in St. Louis, and their retention rate was less than 20% of salespeople every year. So they hired a bunch of them, they threw them out there. And the thing is, I can get that, but they're not hiring the right people. They're not having to pass a stringent set of criteria to be able to play on the team. He said over 50% of those people hadn't really been in sales before. So what they were relying on was scale, numbers, and a quality product and a good presentation. And the wherewithal and the grit and determination of out of 20 people out of 100 that would stay. I think we can do better than that. I think we could look at a lot of different companies. I think we can look at, and success leaves clues. The first thing that I think you have to have a really solid recruiting process is you've got to know what a player looks like that can make an impact on your team. C and D performers are expensive. They taint the marketplace. They go out there, they represent us poorly in the marketplace. Anybody that comes after them is already starting way back in the pack because of what we did hiring wrong in the first place. I think we need to hire smart versus managing hard. So let's take a profile and say 4 ingredients: attitude, skills, activity, knowledge. So let's start with activity. What do they need to be doing on the job? Let's not just say presentations, not just say demonstrations, not just say overcoming objections. Let's not just say closing. Let's look at all the way back to the top of the funnel. What do they need to be doing in the efforts of lead development or lead pursuit? If you don't have a marketing effort generating leads and opportunities for them, what do they do in the form of prospecting, networking, referral generation? What are the systems and processes that you teach early on to make sure that they have enough at-bats? We can work on the conversion rates, and conversion rates are what happens once we get into the cycle. Once we get into the sales cycle, so I get to the point where I can do a demonstration, I can do a presentation, I can lay out a value proposition. So if I put out 10 of those per week and I close 2, I got a 20% conversion ratio. I think we can improve those conversion ratios by improving the skill sets of the salespeople, but they got to have enough at bats, whether they're generated through marketing or whether they're generated themselves. They need to, and I say they, new salespeople need to know what good looks like. They need to know what good sounds like. They need a coach, and they need somebody mentoring them and showing them that process so that they have the right number of at bats. Without the right number of at-bats, their conversion rates better be super high. And if they're not starting from the beginning, that's a recipe for low sales, low revenues, low profits, and many times because of a lack of confidence in the salesperson, low margins, low profits. So let's look at our recruiting process. So we got to have a profile. What activity? What do you need them doing? What skill sets do they need to navigate and be able to execute on to do those activities well and to do them well on a regular basis? What skills do they need to have in prospecting, in networking, in referral generation? What skill sets do they need to have in questioning and probing and demonstrations and presentations and negotiations and closing and follow through? Math, writing up good proposals, doing spelling. What skill sets do they need to have to execute the job well? What attitudes do they need to have? Depending upon the culture that you're going to put them in, do they need to be a little bit self-sufficient? How much time is the salesperson or the sales managers rather spending time coaching in the field with your people? I think if a sales manager has more than 10, 15 people that they're managing, they're not sales managers. They're just administrators. They're administrating what's already happening. They're not coaching what needs to happen. I read a recent article that said what your sales team is like without a sales leader. It's from the Sales Blog by Anthony Iannarino. He says, without a sales, you can build a sales process designed to help you compel change or create value for your clients and win new business. But without a leader to help salespeople learn, follow, and make adjustments to that process, the process can be meaningless and worthless because it's just not being used. With the leader, you can provide an excellent framework for winning new business. Without a leader to set priorities, set the cadence, to coach and develop them, salespeople will not perform to their true capacity. With a leader, you'll have a sales force with priorities, accountability, an operating rhythm, and a coach to improve their skills. See, we think we need more salespeople to create more sales. I need to take a look at the existing conversion rates. So number one, at bats, do I have enough? Number two, are they doing the right things when they're out there? And while I'm recruiting, I got to be thinking about and recruiting people who understand this, who have been through this in sales before, and they have to have the attitude to want to drive through a process. They got to be coachable, they got to be confident, they got to have thick skin, they got to be gladiators to go out there in the marketplace. I can't just throw numbers at it. Now I need us to take a look at knowledge. More often than not, companies that we work with are recruiting for knowledge and experience. They're not. I think you need to recruit for skills and hire for attitude. But if we're honest with ourselves, we either A, will hire what walks through the door that has a pulse and hope that they can go do our presentation, and if there's enough of that going on, we'll get it. Or we go hire somebody else's retread, somebody else's salesperson that didn't cut it because we hire them with experience so we don't have to train them. Sales manager's job is to recruit the right people to put on the team. Hire smart versus managing hard. You need a profile. You need a clear description of and communication of the standards of what it takes to do the job. I don't call that a job description. I call that a day in the life. You wouldn't put a job description for a gladiator no more than you could put a job description for a salesperson. A gladiator goes in the arena with 10 others go in there with him and one comes out. And they got to be prepared for whatever comes out of those gates when they open up. So the best weapons, the best tools, the best training, they got to be in the best condition to do that. So that's when the sales manager is not just looking to have the right quantity, but we also have to have the right quality out there. Having a sales team without a sales leader focused on getting the right number of players on the team. There's no one of these teams in the NBA or the NHL playoffs right now that will go in there. If it's 5 guys got to be on the basketball court, you can't send 3 out there and expect they're going to win. However, you can't put 5 mediocre players against the best in the marketplace either. And they can't go out there without a plan, and they can't go out there without a system and a cadence, as you heard in the article before. They got to have the plays to run. Where are you capturing those? What's your playbook look like? The companies that we're working with right now, what are some of the tools in the question guide? What are some of the tools in your sales playbook to help you get stuff done, to capture what needs to happen by design? We can grow sales in any organization by focusing on having the right people, the right number of people, doing the right things in the marketplace. So conversion rates, margins, profits, those are the things that go up. You got turnover in your sales team, it's because they're not making it. They don't have a coach. They don't have somebody that's patting them on the back, kicking them in the ass. They don't necessarily have a leader to follow. People don't quit jobs. They quit leaders, or they quit lack of leadership. A sales manager's job is to play both those. Make sure I get the right number of players and make sure I'm leading the heck out of them, coaching them to greater sales and profits, coaching them to greater skill sets, holding them accountable, doing the course corrections necessarily, supporting them, getting in the marketplace with them, and helping them be successful representing us in the market. We'll talk about the other two legs in building a sales team, which are culture and compensation, as we go forward. But compensation is just how you keep score. If you're keeping score with lousy players on the field, it doesn't take many people to keep score because they're not scoring enough. Anyway, that's my thoughts as I was thinking about recruiting and development of people. Thanks for taking the time to listen to me for 5 or 6 minutes rant on about my beliefs. Hopefully we'll get a chance to see what we can do to apply some of that in your organization, capture that process, put it in a playbook, and get out there and improve your sales and profits. We'll see you next time.